Good morning. So we're working our way through the book, Doing Imago Relationship Therapy in the Space Between by Harville Hendricks and his wife, Helen LaKelly Hunt. We're looking at chapter 4, Restoring Connection. So in chapter 3, they challenge us to examine our human brain, its complexity, its neuroplasticity, and its relational features suggested by quantum theory, which says the brain only develops in relationship. So as humans, obviously, the earliest relationships are with our caretakers. So chapter 4 goes on to explore what's needed optimally from our caretakers to, to maximize our growth in psychological and mental health. So the first part of the chapter looks more generally at what all children and adults need for healthy development. The latter part, which I'll look at next week, examines in more detail the developmental stages children go through on their way to adulthood and specific needs for each stage. Now, again, I'm admitting right up front, this is way above my pay grade. You know, moving from, because the authors are doing a deep dive into our understanding of how quantum theory has radical implications for our understanding of ourselves as relationship, as opposed to the more traditional understanding of self as a separate entity. So I'm going to quote them quite a bit here, but where we're going with this is that we're all of us grew up in a Newtonian physics world, and now we're moving into a quantum world. Anyway, we, the authors, offer an alternate view of the self that is derived from quantum theory, which state that all features in nature, from the smallest quanta to the entire universe, have two features. One is particle-wave duality, and the other is the observer effect. Imago replaces the substantial self of the individual paradigm with the Imago theoretical concept of self as relationship, which we designate as the quantum self. So with this view of the self, change is inherent and continuous and requires only the right environmental conditions to happen. Rather than exploration of the inner world as a process of change going inside our heads, the quantum self is changed by the quality of the interactions in the space between, namely, whether or not there is an observer and how the observer looks. That's the observer piece they're talking about, the observer effect. This means that our view of ourselves depends on how we are reflected in the eyes of significant others. And later on, they're going to go on to say, it's no surprise that what the child needs to experience connecting is identical to what a relationship needs for couples to experience connecting and joy. And the positive thing for me is that if we've been wounded in relationship, we're born in relationship, we're wounded in relationship, we can be healed in relationship. But again, we have to be aware, we have to be conscious. So what are the non-negotiable requirements for a child's psychological growth? And they say the bare bones of what children need and until and even after they become full-fledged adults are to experience safety, to experience and express full aliveness, to sustain connecting, to have structure, and to experience support. So I'll just work through those. Again, I'm going to quote them a lot because I think it's just helpful to get a different sense of what these things mean in a quantum universe. So safety, but why am I not surprised at this? They say safety is non-negotiable for all mammals, including humans, to thrive. Good point. We can survive without safety. We cannot thrive. And they go on to say, while physical survival is, of course, the primary goal, staying alive means more than simply breathing. From the time they leave the womb, children remain on alert not only for ways to get their needs met, but also for signs of the trustworthiness of those on whom they rely to meet those needs. And when the needs are met and the caretakers are trustworthy, children go from surviving to thriving. So structure, or safety. Now, full aliveness. And think of it, you that have young children. Newborn infants are the precise embodiment of full aliveness. And full aliveness is relational. It's not a feeling, but a neural sensation triggered by safe interactions that emanate through their entire being. Whatever they will do it with all the life energy they can muster. All the caretaker needs to do is structure the child's atmosphere so that it is both protective and permissive, and step back and watch and mirror their child. And again, you see young children, toddlers, they go at life with gusto. And their point is we come from a quantum universe where that's our nature to be fully alive, and then along the way it gets beat up a bit. And we want to get back in an intimate relationship. And we can. So the third one, connecting. Having been born into the tapestry of being experienced as connecting. Remember, we're in a quantum universe. So that we're born into a tapestry of being experienced as connecting. The child's top priorities are to experience and to express connecting. I had the italics here, since that is their nature. Therefore, the most critical lesson that caretakers must transmit to their child is how to connect, to sustain connecting, and to restore connecting when it ruptures. How best to do that? Emotional attunement. As the child moves along the developmental pathway, the quality and consistency of attunement provides clues from the caretakers that the child can use to respond in ways that will best meet the current developmental needs. So again, it's that observer effect is in there too. Fourth one, structure. Structure means setting boundaries as needed to protect the child from dangerous, either the physical or the emotional sense, people, places, and situations. Interesting here. In contrast with discipline, which relies on rewards and punishment and is often coercive, effective structure avoids inflicting a single iota of shame or humiliation upon its recipient. Instead, it focuses on using the child's own experiences to help the child learn from interacting with the world. Imposing structure in ways that are inappropriate to the child's maturational status is not structure, it's more like oppression. Withholding the structure a child needs is not giving them freedom, it constitutes neglect. Interesting. The last one, support. Like safety and structure, appropriate forms of support from caretakers will depend on the child's age, maturational requirements, and life circumstances. At any developmental point, however, support requires a particular attitude on the part of the caretaker, one of warmth and availability to the child. So that's the bare bones of what children, but as we as adults too, to not just survive but thrive. As I went through that, I was just thinking, that's exactly what I need, or what we need as humans. Get support, to be encouraged, to have some structure, connect, full aliveness. Anyway, so that's the first part of the chapter. Next week, I'll look at the 6 developmental stages that children go through on their way to maturity. And each stage has a specific developmental impulse that needs stage-specific relational support to achieve the agenda of that stage. Now, here's where they're heading, is that, but think about it. When there are unresolved issues in any of the stages, those same issues tend to show up in an intimate relationship. And I see that all the time. I just tell my couple, they say, look at it. There were challenges that growing up. Don't be surprised when those challenges show up in the relationship. Now you got to talk to each other about them. And that's, the safe conversation process. People have to learn to talk to each other in a safe way. But, this stuff is not rocket science, although it's interesting. But basically, where we're going with this is that, and none of us got through childhood without challenges. So, wherever those challenges we might have had as a kid, and this is not about blaming parents. All parents do the best they can do. But, all we're saying is don't be surprised when that stuff shows up in a relationship. Now you have to learn to talk to each other about it. But once you do, then you can resolve it. And like my business card says, the tools are available in today's world to have the relationship of your dreams. And I truly believe that. These guys are brilliant, Harville and Helen. Like I say, I'm a coach. I didn't invent hockey. I can coach it. I didn't invent this stuff, but I can coach it. It's good stuff. Anyway, see you next week. Have a great week. Cheers.